What's up? My name is Sky, and this is my very first YouTube video. I'm super excited. I've kind of always wanted to be a YouTuber all my life. I've always recorded little videos of myself as I go on adventures, so I feel like finally I'm now tapping into my true, what's the word? Purpose in this life is to be on YouTube talking about my life. So I'm excited. I've been in Ghana for the past 3.5 months, I believe. I got here on August 16th and it's November 30th right now. So yeah, I think like 3.5 months, and I'm leaving, sadly, December 12th. So it's almost over. But truly, this has been one of the coolest, most grounding, most like fantastic experiences of my entire life. And I cannot wait to keep showing it to the world. And I think that other young Black girls need to know that studying abroad is for you just as much, if not more than it is for anybody else. Seeing the world, becoming a worldly person, seeing outside of your surroundings is such like a good experience to have just as a human being. So if your school offers any study abroad experiences in general, take them, but especially if they offer them on the continent of Africa, indulge, take them. If you can, find a way to get here. It is such a beautiful place. Ghana is such a beautiful country, full of beautiful people, and full of a culture that's like really beautiful to immerse yourself into. And the welcoming nature of the culture just has really allowed me to get everything in. So today I'm going to be talking about some questions that I got on my travel Instagram account, Sky is Traveling. And I'm going to be talking about some of my experiences as I've been here, some of the ups, some of the downs, and just things people should know before studying abroad, specifically in Ghana. So the first question that I got was, what aspects of Ghanaian culture resonated with me as I have been living here? I would say for the most part, I've really resonated with like music and dance here specifically. I feel like the first thing that I noticed when I got here was that music across the Black diaspora is like very universal in certain ways. There are so many similarities between Afrobeats and Ghanaian high life music and like Jamaican reggae music that I've heard, and Black American music from like the inception of the jazz era. Like there's so many connections between music across different parts of the Black diaspora. And I feel like since I got here, music has always felt very familiar. I feel like it's been really easy for me to like tap into not only like sound wise, but like dancing wise. Like it just like felt very homey, like hearing Ghanaian music and learning Ghanaian dances, because they all are like Black people all kind of have very similar like rhythmic patterns that we take on. And then looking at the little tiny cultural nuances and differences is super cool. I would say also the way that like older Black people are in Ghana and in America is very similar in certain ways. Like older Black people just have a certain way about them. Like they have very specific ideals. They have a very specific kind of way of talking. And there's just like an aura that you feel when you're around like your grandmother that I still feel when I'm in Ghana. Like I've met so many adult women that have reminded me of my grandmas. I've met so many adult men that have reminded me of my grandpas. They're just seeing you as like a young person to take care of. And that's very familiar to, I feel like, how older Black grandmas and grandpas are in the US. Like they'll take care of anybody. Like literally my teachers remind me of relatives that I have, or just people that I know from home. And so it's definitely helped me in terms of like not feeling lonely. Humor and jokes. The jokes are very different here, but the way of telling jokes is very similar. Like Black people have like interjectory like sounds that we make in between jokes, or like using tone to like tell jokes. In Ghana and in America, very, very similar. I feel like also just like the uproarious way that like Black people laugh is very similar here. Like people here also do like the run when you're laughing kind of thing, or like the throwing your body around when you're laughing. Like the energy is very, very similar. And it has like the same, I wish I could like give an example, but like it has the same vibe as like in America when like you're telling a joke and somebody's jumping onto the joke at the same time and like adding in ad-libs to the joke that you're making. So like you're telling the story, but your friend to the left of you is like giving like the sounds of the story you're making. Same thing happens here. And I think it is so funny. And oftentimes people will be speaking Twi or Ga or other languages that I do not know, but I can like hear the tone of the jokes they're telling and I still like find them funny. What are some things that I wish that I knew before coming to Ghana? Honestly, the main thing that I would say I knew about, but I don't really feel like I knew the extent of it, was like the way that if your body is not used to like the spices used in African food, but I guess in my case specifically Ghanaian food, it's going to hurt. So I was told before coming here that food is spicy. So I was like really afraid. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't handle the. I'm like really weak when it comes to spices. It's a really embarrassing trait of mine, but like it's the truth. And so I was expecting it to be a problem in terms of like flavor. Like I couldn't eat things because they tasted too spicy. That wasn't the issue. It was the after. And I'm not going to go into detail. This is my first time talking to people on YouTube. I'm going to keep it demure. But like to summarize, my stomach has endured more than it has ever endured in my lifetime since entering Ghana. And I think that that's something that I wish that someone had given me much more details on. So I feel like as much as I wish that I had been more adventurous in terms of eating, like one question that somebody asked was like, what's your favorite food spot to eat here? I haven't really gotten to eat so many Ghanaian foods. I also wish that I knew that there are not really sidewalks in most places, because I am used to being around New York City a lot. So there's pretty much sidewalks almost everywhere. So being in a city where like I'm walking a lot because I like to walk, but there's little to no sidewalk room. So you have to walk really carefully, and cars are driving very, very, very fast, but you're never gonna get hit. Like they're used to pedestrians. So it's like, you're not gonna get hit, but it definitely was a bit nerve wracking because fun fact about me, literally on my very first week here, I got my legs stuck in a sewer grate because there's a lot of like, kind of like half open, half closed sewer grates that are not really actually nailed to the ground. And so I was walking like an idiot and not really paying attention. And then my leg, boom, gets stuck inside of a sewer grate. And luckily, again, very communal culture here. So people all immediately came and helped me. So they were lifting me out by the arms. My cohort that I had just met was lifting me out also. Like it was a nightmare. And I had all these scratches. I had to go to the hospital and get a tetanus shot. Again, week one, I had to be taken to the hospital by a very kind stranger because I didn't know how to get to the hospital, and I had no service because I was not on the right phone plan. So I think that I ended up, kind of walking in a way that wasn't so intelligent without realizing that that would be the case. But I think like a big thing that I also wish that I knew was how race functions very differently in Ghana. In America, I'm only ever categorized as Black. Like no one's gonna think of me as anything but a Black woman. Occasionally I've been asked in America, like, if I'm mixed with white because I'm lighter skinned. But again, I've always been categorized as Black. Here, I've gotten called white. Almost most times when people speak to me, they call me white, or the word for like foreigner / white person in Ghana is a brony. So I would get called a brony a lot. And I'm not gonna lie, it gave me a little bit of a crisis for the first few weeks because I expected to kind of come to Ghana and feel this sense of like homecoming. Like people would treat me like I'm one of them, like it's a predominantly Black country, so I would just kind of melt right in. But that wasn't really the case. Seeing a lighter skinned person is not super common. And again, when they hear my accent, they can tell immediately that I am American. So I wasn't treated like one of the group. I was always like, oh, this is an American, this is a foreigner, this is a white person. And that was definitely the biggest shocker to me because never in my life have I ever been told that I seemed white. Like genuinely, like you are a white person. That's something that was a very new experience to me. Race functions as where you're from. So if you're from Ghana, you're Ghanaian. If you're not from Ghana, you're white. Because since it's a predominantly black country, there's not as much of an incentive to have the strict kind of rigid structures of Black and white that America has. And I had to get used to the fact that being in Ghana wasn't going to feel like a welcome home party, but was more so going to feel like learning about something different. And I think that as time has gone on, the whole welcome home party thing has started to set in. Like I think that like I've found ways to find familiarity here and to find things that feel familiar. But I think overall, I definitely still have felt very different here. In Ghana, it's more
I'm finding it
common to generally, like people don't really like talk very loud.
I'm finding it.
There's not a lot of like one time we were in a store and we were like yelling and we got shushed, and that was like, whoa, because in New York City, like it's kind of like a free for all in terms of like how loud you talk, how you act, whatever. Like you'll see any type of person in New York. Whereas I feel like Ghana is more culturally homogenous. So People say please a lot. People are much more polite here. That's something I really had to get used to because I'm not impolite, but I'm not like polite either. Here, like in Ghana, usually please is in every sentence like 2 to 3 times. And I don't, not that I don't ever use the word please, but it's not in every sentence I say, you know? And even if it's not in a situation where like you're asking for something or you're getting something, people will still say please. It's just like part of a sentence is just like to say please. And now I feel like I do it actually kind of naturally, which is funny. There's a lot of like madame, there's a lot of like auntie, like you have to like address people properly. No cursing in the streets, none of that. That was like a really big, not issue for me, but I actually like, I realized that I actually think I curse like too much, low key. Because since being here, I'm like, wow, like people in Ghana, I've heard people curse like maybe 5 times total here. And every time I hear it, it sounds like grating to my ears because I'm like, what? I don't hear people in Ghana curse. And like being like inside my dorm when I'm talking to my friends and I hear how much I curse compared to like how much other people do like outside, I'm like, I really do too much. Like I really need to I need to get my mouth in check. It's a very religious culture, and it's like multiple religions in terms of the fact that like the predominant religion is Christianity, but Christian people coexist really well with like Muslim people and with people who practice traditional African religions. And I'm not really religious, like low-key, like at all. So people will oftentimes, like after you do something for them, will say God bless you, or just like to end a phone call, they'll say God bless you, or you'll say how are you, and they'll say like by God's grace I'm alive, like things that like I've literally never heard because I also did not grow up around religious people. But I am Muslim, so I've actually learned a lot about Islam since being here, because in Ghana, Islam is not demonized in the same way that it is in the US. There's not as much Islamophobia. Christians and Muslims like get along very well and like will live in the same neighborhoods, and like there'll be a church, you drive 1 block down, there's a mosque, there's a church, there's a mosque, there's a church, there's a mosque. I think that is so beautiful. I got to speak to an imam while being here and interview him on like his experience of Islam, and I've gotten to speak to many Black Muslims about like what Islam means to them. Being in a place where Islam is celebrated and respected has been really, really nice, and made me like kind of open up more to the idea of like if certain religious practices actually like can potentially like mean something to me, because I've kind of always put religion on the back burner as like something that I'm just not into. But I feel like since being here, I've been much more into like the spirituality of nature and how that can be religious, much more into the ideas of Islam and like certain like phrases that are common like in Muslim greetings. Another question I got was, have I explored like hair braiding here? Like, have I got my hair done while here? And I have, but I only did it one time because I came in with fresh braids. So those got to last for like a good like month and a half. And I got my hair done once, but it didn't really last for as long as I would have wanted it to. I feel like the style was kind of different than what I expected it to be. And so then once I took those braids out, I kind of realized like how nice it felt to have my hair out here. I love having my hair out in general, but specifically having my hair out around almost exclusively Black women has honestly been one of the most empowering experiences ever. Kind of taught me that like I really value just being in my natural state. And although I love getting braids, I love having a good like, you know, I don't want that to always be what I do. I feel like I sometimes turn back to it out of comfort and out of not wanting to have to worry about my hair, or thinking that like I know like braids are reliable to always look good, and you know hair, your natural hair can have good days and bad days, you know. I don't want to play that game anymore. I don't want to play the good day, bad day game. I love my hair. Another question was about whether I see myself returning for a longer time period after my study abroad ends in December. And I've actually thought about this a lot. I think that I still see myself generally living in America and in New York, but I think that I definitely want to come back to Ghana and continue to visit Ghana. I think that once I get my money up, I hope it's a place that I can like continually return back to and connect to in terms of like the people that I've met here, but also the way that I've like connected to certain cultural practices. Like I've been taking drumming lessons while I've been here, and that has been so cool. But you know, there's not going to be as much of like, it's not going to be common to hear drumming once I get back to New York. And of course, like, there's drums in New York, and I'm sure there are African people who play drums in New York, but it's not going to be like as much of a common practice. So I want to be able to like tap back into the music that exists here. I've always loved music so much, but I feel like actually getting to like practice it genuinely and dive into it, that hasn't happened to me in years. So I want to be able to come back here and keep revisiting what I've been learning in terms of drumming. I also have learned a ton about the transatlantic slave trade since being here. I visited a lot of the slave castles. I visited Elmina Castle, Cape Coast Castle, and Osu Castle, and I've really learned that that is a topic that I would like to kind of dedicate a lifelong learning process about in terms of like diasporic effects of the slave trade. And so I want to keep coming back to Ghana and learning more about Ghanaian history and how it relates to the slave trade, and just learning about the connection of African people to Black Americans. And although I can learn about that in America or in New York, it's a lot more accessible here because I can directly speak to more people who have been affected by or have family stories related to these kinds of things. Whereas in New York and at the school I'm going to, I'm in a predominantly white environment, so it's not as accessible to like learn about this kind of stuff, or to be assumed that like it should be taught in class. So you have to fight for this kind of information to be taught more, or fight for Black stories to be told more in New York. So to be in a place where I get to read plays written by African women, read books, and go to castles and other historical sites that are related to the slave trade and like part of my family's history, because I am Black American and my roots at this point, you know, they're kind of everywhere. So I think to directly learn about Black history and on the continent of Africa, and directly learn about the African perspective of history is something that I want to be able to revisit literally forever. So I definitely plan to keep on returning back to Ghana. So thank you so much for watching my very first video. I'm actually like really excited for this now that I've recorded the whole thing. I'm like, this is so exciting, and I'm actually really excited to make more of these. Yeah, comment if you have any ideas about like next things that you're curious about in terms of my experience in Ghana, or my experience as a drama major, or both. I've lots to say. Hopefully inspiring other people to come visit Ghana, not just during Deti December, but to also just experience Ghana in general, and to experience the culture at other times of year, just to experience a new environment. And yeah, bye.